As I departed the notary's office, a whisper reached me from behind. I chuckled and walked away. The following day, I decided to investigate. Before we proceed, please tell me where you're from and your age. Enjoy. Galina Ivanovna ambled away from the notary, a pace reserved for those carefully containing a burgeoning joy. The December air was crisp and biting. Tiny snowflakes crunched underfoot on the sidewalk, and a uniform pale haze hung over the rooftops. Neatly arranged papers rested in her handbag. The draft of a deed of gift for her apartment. Not yet signed, only prepared. Nevertheless, it felt like a decisive step, promising a future that was finally clear and orderly. She was 63 years old, a widow for 8 years. Her only child, Alexei, was a grown man, nearing 40. He had his own family, with his wife, Irina. They had no children yet. Perhaps it wasn't the right time, or they needed to establish themselves more firmly, or some other reason. Galina Ivanovna had always refrained from prying into such personal matters. It wasn't her way. Throughout her life, she had been one to maintain her composure. Accounting, reports, deadlines, responsibility. The habit of living by the rules was ingrained in her. Her apartment was lovely. A 2-room dwelling in a brick building, warm, with large windows, conveniently located near a park and a clinic. The apartment had belonged to her parents. Later, she and her husband had renovated it, replacing pipes and windows, installing a new kitchen set, and saving diligently. Her husband had passed away suddenly. A heart attack. They hadn't managed to finish everything. After the funeral, she couldn't bring herself to enter the bedroom for a long time. Eventually, she forced herself, knowing she had no other choice. Life continued. Her son had stayed close in the immediate aftermath. Then, everything became hectic. Work, his own family, loans, everyday worries. Alexei visited less frequently, but he called often, especially when he needed a little assistance. Galina Ivanovna helped with car repairs, a down payment for something, or bridging the gap until payday. She grumbled. But she gave, because he was her son, because she was a mother. And in recent months, their conversations had shifted. Irina, her daughter-in-law, had become surprisingly affectionate. She called on her own, inquired about her health, invited her for tea, and casually, almost incidentally, began to plant little suggestions. "Oh, Galina Ivanovna, you should really get everything formalized in advance so no one has to run around later. There are so many scammers these days. And if anything were to happen, we'd help you, of course. But it's best to have the documents sorted out beforehand." Alexei would chime in. "Mom, you understand, don't you? We'll help you, naturally. It's just so everything is settled peacefully, without all that stress later. You know how things are these days." Galina Ivanovna listened and agreed. Not out of naivete, but out of weariness with constant worry, with the endless what-ifs. She longed for simplicity, for her son's life to be easier, for her daughter-in-law to feel secure, for order in the family. She wanted to do the right thing, and she didn't like admitting it, but she also wanted to feel valued, to be seen not just as a pensioner with money, but as a mother who was considered. And so, she found herself at the notary's. The office smelled of paper and cheap coffee. The young notary spoke evenly, precisely, as if reciting instructions. Quote 4. Galina Ivanovna nodded, but the words quote 5 and quote 6 resonated unpleasantly within her. She asked quietly, "Quote 7. The notary glanced over her glasses. Quote 8. Galina Ivanovna emerged with the papers, feeling as though she held not documents, but a thin plank over an abyss. Was she falling? No. But the ground beneath her feet suddenly felt different. She reached the entrance, pulled her scarf tighter, and was about to head for the bus stop when she heard a hoarse, almost inaudible whisper from behind. She turned. Against the wall sat a beggar, small and hunched in an old jacket and scarf within bag. Her face was neither angry nor drunk, merely gaunt. The woman looked intently, as if seeing straight through Galina Ivanovna, and whispered again, quote 11. The word sounded so mundane, as if she were discussing a jar of pickles, not an apartment. Galina Ivanovna recoiled. Quote 12, she blurted out. The beggar didn't explain, merely raised her hand slightly, as if to stop her. Not now. Just don't hurry. The box under the bed. You'll understand. She turned away as if the conversation were concluded. Galina Ivanovna stood, clutching her bag, feeling a chill creep up her legs. She disliked anything mystical, and had no faith in fortune-tellers. Her life had been one of numbers, facts, and reports. But the phrase was too specific, too confident, and delivered not as a request or advice, but as a warning. Mechanically, she slipped a couple of bills into the beggar's hand, not out of pity, but to end the encounter, to put a period on it. Then she hurried to the bus stop. On the bus, she tried to dismiss it. Quote 14. But two words kept replaying in her mind. Quote 15 and quote 16. The more she tried to shake them off, the tighter they clung. At home, she told no one, not her friend Nina, with whom she sometimes chatted in the evenings, nor her neighbor Tamara, who knew everything about everyone and loved to stir the pot. Galina Ivanovna wanted no gossip, no unnecessary emotions. She simply put the papers in a drawer, made tea, and forced herself to attend to her usual tasks. But sleep eluded her that night. She lay in the darkness, listening to the ticking clock, the clicks in the radiator, someone quietly closing a door in the stairwell. Suddenly she remembered Irina's words from a few weeks prior, spoken with a smile. Oh, we're so respectable. We wouldn't wrong you. But it's best to formalize everything. You never know. The word otherwise hadn't registered then, but it did now. The next morning, Galina Ivanovna rose early, fried herself an egg, drank tea without sugar, then stood by the window and suddenly realized she wouldn't rest until she checked. If she didn't check, she would fear her own suspicion more than the truth. And if she did check, at least she would know. She called her son at 9 a.m. Alyosha, I'll stop by. I want to bring you some jam. And I baked pies. Quote 19, Mom. Let's do it in the evening, Alexei replied sleepily. We're out right now. On errands. I'll be quick. Just 10 minutes. All right, he yawned. We're going to the store. Maybe we won't be home yet. That's fine. I have my key. You gave it to me, just in case. That's how Irina likes it. A thought flitted through her mind. Everything neat. Everything by the ruler. Galina Ivanovna sat on the edge of the bed, and for a second she wondered, what if there's nothing there? What am I doing? Quote 27. After formalizing the deed of gift, 1. Within a month, initiate the process of deregistration. 2. Propose a temporary move to a friend or a nursing home. 3. If refused, initiate legal proceedings to terminate the right of use. Nursing home, move. Quote 30. Deregistration. Quote 31. The new notary is efficient. Speak gently to Mom. The main thing is to get her to sign before New Year's. Separate lay a sheet, as if for speech practice. Mom, it's hard for you alone. Come live with us and we'll rent out the apartment. You'll have money for medication. It's better for everyone. And next to it, another version, harsher. If she starts to resist, pressure her. You don't trust us, you're destroying the family. All normal parents do this. Galina Ivanovna laid the papers on the bed and felt her hands tremble. Her ears were ringing. Not like in the movies. No screams, no music. It was simply her body saying, "This is a blow." The second box was even worse. It contained bank statements for her accounts. Printouts of transactions she hadn't made, her pension, her savings, and another list. Withdraw cash, transfer to Irina's card, close the deposit. You imagined it all. Nina, can you give me the number of a good lawyer? Someone discreet. Golka, what happened? Just give me the number, please. Say it's from me. The lawyer turned out to be a woman in her 50s. With a steady voice and a habit of speaking without unnecessary emotion. Galina Ivanovna met her in a small office on the ground floor of a residential building. It smelled of paper and cheap soap, like a clinic. The lawyer reviewed the documents Galina Ivanovna had brought in the bag and said quietly, "You did the right thing by not signing anything. A gift isn't a just in case. It's immediate. And if the apartment transfers, you'll be dependent on their goodwill. Based on your documents, relying on goodwill is risky. What should I do now? My son, he's..." She couldn't finish. The word son catching in her throat like a bone. The lawyer didn't push. There are several options. The simplest. Don't give anything. Leave everything as is. Make a will. It takes effect after your death. Until then, you are the owner. We can consider a rent agreement, but that's more complex. We could formalize a portion, but that also requires thought. In your case, the most important thing now is to ensure the security of your documents and money. Change passwords, check access, obtain statements, restrict access to your accounts, and yes, prepare for a conversation if you decide to have one. Galina Ivanovna remained silent, and the lawyer added, "And these papers. They aren't proof of a crime, but they are proof of intent. If they start to pressure you, you have something to show, but you must present it correctly. Underscore quote underscore 48 underscore mom." "Did you come by today? Irina said it looked like someone had been in our bedroom. Here it begins. I stopped by, wanted to give you jam, but you weren't home, so I left. And the key? You gave it to me." Alexei faltered. "Mom." "Well, warn me." "Okay," she said. "I'll warn you. Mom, you remember about the notary? We wanted to go this week." "I remember. I'll think about it." "Mom, what do you mean, think about it?" Your voice became irritated. "We agreed. We haven't signed anything. Underscore quote underscore 60 underscore. Then we didn't fully agree." Alexei inhaled sharply. "Did Irina put you up to this, or your Nina?" "Mom, you understand." "I understand everything, Alyosha, and it's time for me to sleep." Quote 64. Galina Ivanovna, you understand? It's for your peace of mind. So there's no running around later. We're family, after all. Galina Ivanovna listened and responded the same way each time. "I'll think about it. Don't rush me." One day, Irina lost her temper. "Don't you trust us?" "No. We've helped you so many times. Alyosha is your son. Are you really going to be stingy?" Galina Ivanovna raised her eyes. "Trust isn't measured by a deed of gift, Ira. Trust is measured by actions." "What other actions?" "The ones you yourself wrote down." "I don't understand what you're talking about." "You do. But I'm not going to make a scene now. I'll just say, there will be no deed of gift. And that discussion is closed. You're betraying us. Alyosha is your only son. Do you want to leave everything to strangers?" Galina Ivanovna also rose. Everything inside her trembled, but her voice remained calm. "I want to keep my life, Ira, and the apartment is mine. I'm not betraying anyone. I'm simply no longer handing my destiny over to others." Irina left, slamming the door. In the evening, Alexei arrived. Without warning, he burst into the apartment, not even taking off his jacket. "Mom, what are you doing?" He was red-faced and angry. "Irina is crying. She says you humiliated her." "I spoke the truth," Galina Ivanovna interrupted. What truth? He raised his voice. Mom, enough. We're family. I'm your son. Do you want to leave everything to the state and not to yours? Do you even understand what this looks like? Galina Ivanovna looked at him for a long time. She saw not a boy, but a man accustomed to taking, demanding, pressuring, and suddenly felt a strange sense of relief. She no longer had to guess what he meant. He had revealed himself. Alyosha, she said. Sit down. He sat down, breathing heavily. She took the folder from the closet, the one with the copies, and placed it in front of him. Here, read this. Alexei scoffed at first, then took the pages, scanned the first, then the second. His face changed as if someone were slowly dimming the light. This isn't, quote, 87. This isn't what you think. And what do I think? Galina Ivanovna asked. Well, it's, quote, 90. It's Irina. She's planning everything so that she can deregister me and send me to a nursing home. Quote, 91, Mom. You understand. You're alone. It's hard for you. Quote, 92. And this way, quote, 93. Well, we'd rent out the apartment. I'd get something. Galina Ivanovna leaned forward. I'd receive my own money, like alms. You're twisting everything, he shouted. You've always controlled everything, your whole life. And now nothing is right for you. Irina just wanted what was best. No, Alyosha. Irina wanted what was most profitable, and you wanted what was easiest. And you both forgot one thing. I am not a thing. I am a person. I will not argue with you. Quote, 101. I will not report you to the police. Quote, 102. Alexei grumbled. Quote, 103. Alexei looked at her and suddenly asked quietly, quote, 105. Galina Ivanovna smiled wearily. Quote, 106, that's all. He left without slamming the door. His shoulders were slumped. At the threshold, he turned, as if he wanted to say something, but didn't. After that, silence fell. For 2 months, Alexei called rarely, sometimes sending a short text. Quote, 107. She replied, quote, 108, and that was it. Galina Ivanovna did not rush to complain to her neighbors, nor did she immediately confide in her relatives. A deep sense of shame and hurt washed over her. Yet she understood that if she were to air her grievances now, she would crumble. Her priority was to regain her composure, to piece herself back together. She busied herself with practical matters, visiting a notary to finalize her will. It was a calm, drama-free process where she meticulously outlined her wishes, allocating her apartment to her son, but with a crucial stipulation. Should he contest the will or attempt to evict anyone, the arrangement would be irrevocably altered. A legal advisor had guided her on crafting the document with airtight precision, leaving no room for loopholes. Galina Ivanovna harbored no desire for revenge. This was simply a matter of safeguarding her future. She meticulously organized her paperwork, acquired a new mobile device, replaced her SIM card, and instructed her bank to flag any significant transactions requiring her personal verification. This wasn't born of paranoia, but rather a newfound maturity and a sober assessment of her circumstances. In the springtime, Alexei appeared alone, without Irina, a bouquet of tulips in hand. He stood at her doorstep, his demeanor suggesting he had aged considerably. "Mom, may I come in?" he asked. She simply stepped aside, allowing him passage. He settled at the kitchen table, his fingers restlessly turning a teacup. "Irina," he began, only to falter into silence. "Yes, Irina," Galina Ivanovna prompted gently. We've separated," Alexei murmured, his voice barely audible. "It wasn't immediate, but I've begun to see things clearly. She always felt entitled to everything. And when you refused her, she said such things about you that I was utterly ashamed. Galina Ivanovna listened, devoid of any sense of triumph. What she craved was not vindication, but the return of her son as a man of integrity. "I didn't come to ask about the apartment," Alexei said abruptly, as if sensing her thoughts. "I came to ask for forgiveness. I was truly foolish." Galina Ivanovna gazed at him, recalling his past accusations. "You always tried to control everything." Suddenly she realized perhaps his outburst stemmed not from anger towards her, but from frustration with himself for feeling weak and easily manipulated. "I'm no saint, Alexei," she stated. "I made mistakes too. I allowed you too much. I believed it was a demonstration of love, but it turned out I had conditioned you, and that doesn't mean we can't start anew." Alexei looked up, tears welling in his eyes. "May I?" he whispered. "Yes, you may," Galina Ivanovna replied, "but this time honestly." They sat in silence for a long while, speaking little. In the quiet that settled between them, there was more understanding than any argument could have provided. Later that evening, after Alexei had departed, Galina Ivanovna walked out to the very notary's office. Not out of obligation, but because a lingering matter, Tanishchenko, needed resolution. The office, of course, was closed. Other individuals occupied the steps. Some smoked, others waited. Galina Ivanovna stood for a moment, her gaze drifting to the street, and a wave of gratitude washed over her. It wasn't directed at any specific individual, but rather at the unforeseen event that had, at precisely the right moment, halted her. She didn't dwell on the identity of the informant. Perhaps it truly had been a former neighbor who had witnessed Irina and Alexei. Perhaps it was a woman who had navigated similar challenges and recognized the signs in their expressions and words. Or maybe it was simply a compassionate soul who, seeing an elderly woman clutching a folder, felt compelled to offer words that could avert disaster. Galina Ivanovna returned home, and, for the first time in a long period, slept soundly. Several months later, Alexei began visiting more frequently. He helped around the house without prompting, not out of obligation or personal gain, but simply because he wanted to. Occasionally, he would sit with her, sharing details about his work. One day, almost as an afterthought, he remarked, quote, 1, 2, 2 La Galina Ivanovna nodded, quote, 1, 2, 3. He paused, then added, quote, 1, 2, 4. She believed him, not solely because he was her son, but because he spoke his truth quietly, not with a shout. And in that quietude lay a profound sincerity. The apartment remained in Galina Ivanovna's name. The legal documents were in her possession, and her finances were under her control. But more importantly, she had reclaimed her sense of self-worth and learned a fundamental truth. Kindness must be tempered with wisdom, and love requires healthy boundaries. She also grasped a lesson that neither accounting books nor life's regulations could teach. Sometimes it's not strength or cunning that saves us, but a single, timely whisper of advice that prompts us to pause and reevaluate our reality. And if anyone were to ask Galina Ivanovna a year later if she regretted not signing a deed of gift, her response would be simple. I have no regrets. I finally gave myself a gift, a peaceful life, my own.